Hi there and welcome along to the Monday night show on the Rangers Rabble. Foreign also going to maybe preview the Napoli game, which I don't know if we're looking forward to it or not. And joined tonight is Brian and Alec. How you doing, guys?
Not bad yourself.
I seen you last night, Brian, so
Aye,
a
yeah.
wee bit better. How about you,
Aye.
Alec?
A wee bit.
It's not great, is it? It's not great looking. I mean, I've had to go into a class today and sit next to a Celtic fan, so it's not been brilliant, no.
Have you changed since you've come home? Anyway, we'll go on. Just to everybody that's listening, joining us tonight, if you can like, subscribe, or yourself, you can look at the Zenith coins where you get 10% off using the code at the bottom of your screen, which I keep forgetting. What's the code again, Brian? I think you know it, don't
RR10.
you? RR10. And you've got the coins, haven't you, Brian? So you
Mm-hmm.
say they're well worth it.
Really
So
nice.
we were on last night, and yourself as well, Brian. We were talking about the game from the weekend, also talking about Gio. I know Gio, a lot of the folk were saying new manager, but Gio is still in the job, so we've got to give him a bit of respect. He is still the manager. So as long as he's there, we've got to give him a bit of support, even though we're not happy the way things are going just now. So we don't really want to go back and talk about the weekend. So what's your thoughts on obviously a Napoli game first of all, Brian? Just are you looking forward to it? Are you not looking forward to it, or is it just one of these ones you just want to tick off the list and say that's not a Champions League game away, since we're out anyway?
Yeah, it's as far as I'm concerned, as a fixture, it's just an inconvenience. The Roma Napoli game from last night, I noticed that Roma didn't even have a shot on target. So that's Napoli playing away from home in the Olympicos. So that kind of just says everything about how Napoli, seemingly they're the most informed team in Europe just now as well. So we're not exactly picking a good time to go and play them. So yeah, it's a bit of an inconvenient sort of game for me. We've got bigger fish to fry than this game, but yeah, it's going to be an extremely difficult game. Can't hide from that. And yeah, I'm really not looking forward to it. It's going to be a bit sort of looking through the fingers. It could be quite a mauling to say the least.
I mean, Alex, we're looking at the game, obviously Napoli game. We'll probably talk about it in a while as well. But we all think we're going to go there and get them destroyed. We probably will. But should the players be thinking that way, considering we're out? So
No.
should you not just be going there, trying to enjoy themselves and just playing football with no pressure on them?
There should be no pressure on them, but because of the state of affairs elsewhere, there's pressure on them to try and put some sort of performance in there, whether it be. I don't think anybody's looking for a result tomorrow night, and it's going to be hard to build on anything. Napoli are ridiculously good this season. I think they've had the best start to the season, their best joint start to the season ever in their history. So it's going to be a very difficult task. And I mean, they scored four here against Liverpool. They beaten Ajax home and away with significant scorelines. It's not at any point going to be an easy game, but I don't think they should be going there, thinking let's just have a bit of fun or enjoying themselves or whatever. They need to go there and still show that they are Rangers, because make no make no mistake, we have been pushed around the park this season, in the Champions League, and it shouldn't be that way. Okay, these clubs have a lot more finances, etc., available, but we haven't even looked at challenging. We had what, a good 45 minutes against Liverpool, and that's it. Apart from that, we've not even looked like we're challenging. We've barely looked like going forward. So this is a chance to give themselves the best possible account, of what they are, and if anything is going to change, anything is going to be fixed, it has to start now. You can't delay it until the weekend or the week after or whatever. So I think, to be honest, I think that this game should be in the back of Gio's head, and should be something that's, the result maybe not so much, but the performance should concern him.
Do you think, Brian, that we think we should be concentrating on Wednesday, as in as much as some people are? Or do you think we should just say that, listen, you said earlier on, we've got more important things like Aberdeen coming at the weekend. So do you think Gio will go into the game in midweek and think he'll play the players he trusts, the players he usually goes to, or do you think he might make one or two changes just for the fact he knows we're out? Some guys do need game time, and some guys basically need a rest, and some guys do need dropped as well. To be fair,
Yeah, the sort of logically and sort of being a bit sort of I mean, everybody would suggest that he should be resting players and giving guys who need games minutes in their legs, but we all know that's not really how Gio does things just now. He kind of, I mean, there's Tavernier allegedly had an injury, but he says he isn't. Lundstrom, we've discussed that as well. Guys are out of form, but they never seem to. They're almost undroppable, and it's he'll make one or two changes. I mean, I reckon he'll probably play Morelos instead of Cholak. Maybe one or two other sort of changes, but he'll keep the things exactly the same. I can't see him making many changes. He's not known to do that. So no, I really don't see him changing much, to be quite honest.
and remember, everybody that's watching or joining us tonight, you can give us a call on 0141 628 7237, and you can speak to myself, Alec, Brian, speak to the three or just put your point forward and let us know what you think, so you're not listening to us three all night. And I just feel, I was listening to Gio the other day, and he got asked a question. I listened to a press conference, and I think it was for David Edgar. I asked him, are the players still buying into your philosophy? Now, I kind of laughed. I know it's not funny, but his philosophy, which I don't really know what it is, but he never really gave an answer either way. He just kind of was like I hope they are. I mean, he's been here a long time. You would think he would know what players are and what players aren't. Do you not think so, Alec?
Yeah, I think especially what we saw when Gio came in was there was faces he didn't trust, players that came completely out the team, and we saw that, we thought it was a little bit of negligence at the start with the likes of Scott Wright, and then they started appearing in the team with a bit more trust and a better performance, and you're thinking, okay, well, he seems to actually be getting this right, or the man management actually seems to be getting it right. And now we've gone exactly back to where we were. And it's not just new signings, it is players that were here previously. I mean, Scott Wright's one of them. Fashion Sakala is another who really doesn't seem to be a favourite of Gio. And I don't understand why, there wasn't more squad rotation in the window if that's the case, especially with, players like Sakala, the rumoured 3 million bid from Burnley or whatever. If those are true and we're not going to be using them, what are we sitting on? Why are we waiting? But I think Gio's press conference was a really hard watch. I actually feel sorry for him watching that because he just looked lost. I think when he said, "I'm trying my best," was just really hard to watch from my point of view, and I pity. I felt sorry for him then, but it does show, he looks clueless. He does look clueless, and it doesn't seem to be changing. I don't think, although we've got to, back him whilst he's there and all that, I think we need to make a big change. And I'll be the first to say tonight anyway, he's not the only one that has to go.
No, he probably isn't, Alec. But Brian, I don't know if you watched the press conference, but to me, the writing's on the wall, and I think Gio knows that. I think he's just biding his time because he does seem like he has lost. He's struggling when he's getting asked questions, and he's not really answering them with any confidence. You're on mute, Brian.
Yeah, he's almost like, what is the saying? The dead man walking.
Right,
It's
just
almost
sorry
wait.
to interrupt you, Brian.
Alright.
We've got a caller, and it's Max is phoning in this evening. How you doing, Max? And what's your point this evening?
What fucking philosophy? Doesn't he have a philosophy? Jeez, oh man. Players playing injured. What's going on?
I've not got a clue, Max. That's what we were saying. It's like he's lost. I don't think it's just happened overnight. I think it's been happening for a while, and I think you can see that the way he comes across in the press conference. But I think you can see that the way the players come across on the pitch. Do you think it's time, Max, that the board and the club have to make a change, as in now?
Yep, get rid of Ross Wilson first. That's the problem.
Do you
That's
think
the
one
main
goes and one
problem.
stays, or joint the two of them should go?
I don't know about Gio because he's been hampered with a lot of injuries. Plus, I don't know what's going on with players and that. Kent's gave up. Fucking Maguire, he looks as if he's still running about like a headless chicken. I don't know what's going on with him. They don't want to see him
I
much,
always
a few of them.
I think, Max, that he's. I think I said this week that it's probably not necessarily all Gio's fault. I think he's working with one, maybe two hands behind his back, and I think there's bigger problems further up the chain. I don't believe for 1 minute that all these players were Gio's signings. I just don't see it. There's none that he's worked with before. There's no Dutch players. The first thing a new manager does when he comes in is he signs players that he knows, doesn't he?
Yep. As I said, I've never known a Dutch manager to go to any team and not sign one Dutch player. Never known it. Never heard that. It's crazy.
I mean, do you think, Max, if he brought in a couple of Dutch players, but things would be different?
I don't know. It would give you the sense he's actually got a say in the team, because the way it's looking now, he's not got a say.
Max, I just wanted to say, you said, Kent is looking bad. Morelos, obviously, both of them are their contracts are running down. Do you think they're down in tools, and other players too, down in tools because they're not in with Gio's, as you say, what philosophy? Because, we saw at Aston Villa, as soon as they've changed their manager, they go and win 4-0 at the weekend. Do you think something similar could happen with us?
I don't know. It's just one of them. What's going on at all with the whole blooming setup? I think there needs to be a shake-up in the boardroom. Something needs to happen because the whole club's crazy at the moment. I've never known it this bad for years.
No, it's just not great at the moment, Max. We totally agree with you. It's not great, and I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel in the near future myself. But anyway, Max, obviously, you like yourself, you're all frustrated, and you still go to games. I mean, you're going to games now. You're not confident.
No, even when the bad old days in the late 70s and early 80s, it was bad. The crowds were crap, but you had to watch, and it was like entertaining. It wasn't the best team in the world, but it was actually entertaining football. It was like a couple of good players that you could see. But I don't know what's going on in it. It's just never known it like that.
Just on that, Max, I take it you're bored then when watching Rangers.
That's an understatement. I've been following Rangers for 50 years, and there's just no hunger. There's nothing, no desire, no nothing. Anyway, I'm going to F off and then let you boys go on that. Anyway,
thanks for calling, Max. I appreciate that.
I just like my wee fucking mod, man. Get Curry on, he should go next. Fucking hell, man. Anyway, boys, thanks for the night then, man.
See you later, Max.
Take care, Max.
See you later.
So, Max said there if Gio brought in some of his own players, it would be different. In my personal opinion, I don't think it would be. What do you both think?
I'll let you go, Alec.
I think it would. I think more changes need to happen too, but I think it would just be fresher. I think that's always how it is. A player would, even if we sacked him, and I'm not endorsing this whatsoever, by the way, we had a caretaker in place whilst we scouted an actual manager, which wouldn't happen. Let's be honest, it would just be a couple of weeks of faffing about. But I think there's that hunger for players to prove why they then deserve to be under the new manager. Whereas now they're sitting comfy knowing they're either Gio's favourites or nothing's going to change because he likes the way he is and he doesn't trust other players. So they're sitting comfy thinking, I can put in a 6 out of 10 today, 5 out of 10 today. I'll probably still be playing next week, so it doesn't bother me too much. Whereas when there's that fresh change, and somebody comes in and just kind of goes, fresh start, familiar. I know, like, I've seen your faces before, but you don't know who I am in terms of, like, personally and all that. They then have to prove why at the weekend they should be starting, and then go and prove at the weekend why they should be playing midweek, and so on and so forth. So I think it would make a difference, but like I said earlier, ultimately it's not the only one we're looking for to go.
Brian, get any saying that?
Yeah, yeah, I think there's a lot of competition not there just now. Obviously, there's injuries, but I just think there's a lot of them scunnered with the way it is just now. They just, as Mark said on the call there just before, at least some of the games that we'd seen in the past, that he was referring to the 70s and 80s, you could at least see a bit of fight and a bit of dig with some of the players. It wasn't, the effort wasn't sort of questioned, but this this is just monotonous football. It's you can virtually predict what's going to happen, when the subs are going to happen, who it's like for like. There's no sort of formation changes. I think he was praised early on in one of his first games when he changed the formation because he wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
Mid game, I think he changed it very early in one of the European games, and we all thought, "Oh, this is great. This is new. Somebody changing a formation mid game and like early doors." But we've barely seen that since, and as Alex said, there's a lot of guys in the comfort zone, and they know they're going to play. And it's
I mean, personally, I think we should have had a refresh well before now anyway with the squad.
Yeah.
But if you see a new manager does come in, Alec, do you think this squad's good enough to turn that around?
Yes, I think the squad is good enough. I think what we have has the capabilities. However, I think it should still be better than it is. But I mean, we've seen before. These players can play on their day, and I'm not expecting each and every one of them to do it over a 10-year period consistently, week in, week out. But we've seen their high levels, and to say there's players that are gonna drop out of form, they're gonna have a drop off, etc. This is more than a drop off. These guys are now playing consistently poor week in, week out. Like I say, we watched these guys 6 months ago get a final in Europe. Win the Scottish Cup, and okay, we didn't do great in the league, but the results were still more promising than a 1-1 draw at home to Livingston. It's just not a good look, and a lot of these players can. I mean, James Tavernier, we have been raving about for years, seems to be just either holding an injury, which we're told from him and the club isn't the case, or his legs are going. Because there's no other way that he can be playing like that. There's no way at the top of his game James Tavernier is playing like that. We've seen his capabilities. Elsewhere, Lundstrom apparently carrying an injury and is playing through it. I mean, goalkeeper situation is sloppy from the club. There doesn't seem to be a real idea of what's going on there, and we've ended up with all three goalkeepers extending, with the view of the fans to have none of the three there next season. So it's a really, really big confusement, and I think that there are players in that squad that are good enough. I think the overall squad is borderline good enough. But yourself, we all know what they are capable of on their day.
We do, but they're very inconsistent. That's the problem. Anyway, everybody watching, give us a call tonight. As I say, it's a phone in, so you don't want to hear me, Alec, and Brian drone on. Give us a call on 0141 628 7237 and put your point forward, and we can go over that. But I mean, it's all ifs and buts at the moment, isn't it? About the new manager, this or that. I mean, Rangers don't tell us anything, as Mel said in the comments, and that's why we are here, all making a difference about managers, about players, about everything. Because Rangers don't tell us nothing, Brian, until the very last minute. So, I mean, Gio's still in the job, but we're all sitting here wondering who will be the next manager. But as I seen when Steven Gerrard left, we didn't have a clue who was coming in, and ended up being Gio, and we'll kind of muted Gio near the end of it. But Rangers as a club at the moment, Brian, it's not just on the team. it's also behind the scenes they're having issues.
Yeah.
And like you says, we're going to have an interesting AGM. But at this moment in time, we've got Walter waiting. Welcome, Walter. What's your point this evening?
How's it going, Kerr? You alright, mate? You're kind of like Paul Cooney or Gordon Duncan tonight. Yeah, you're doing no bad, mate. Well done.
I'm not bad. Paul Cooney or Gordon Duncan. I'll not take that as a compliment.
So basically, it's kind of the point that Alex made earlier on. It's not just his haircut that's annoying me tonight. So he said about the Europa League, and he mentioned that in his comments. And there's so many Rangers fans do mention that in their comments in regards to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. And what I want to talk about is just domestic only, because we know that's all that matters, right? And if the coefficient is anything to go by this season going forward, Rangers and Celtic aren't going to make enough points in a couple of years. We're going to be back down to maybe one position or qualifiers for both going forward. And kind of my point is, since the 11 months, so I think it was the 3rd of November last year, Van Bronckhorst took over. In the 11 months to this point, when he came in, we were 4 points ahead. We finished last season 4 points behind. We're currently 4 points behind. We're losing a point a month to them, okay?
Yep.
In the league, we've had...
Walter's been disconnected there. Hopefully he calls back in. He's making a really good point there, Brian, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's as we've discussed before, he came in when we were leading the league, and I think it was a 12-point turn in total. He surrendered a 12-point. I think when he first came in, he was 4 ahead. I think he got it up to 6, and then we lost by 4. But yeah, he's making a great point in the sense that we're losing a point a month, a point a month roughly, and it's as we said before we started, Kerr, it's difficult to see us clawing back 4 points, let alone if the point gap gets worse, because we all know we've got a dodgy result in us just now. Whereas, I mean, there was them at the weekend. They find a way to beat Hearts, and then we go into the Livingston game really thinking we should beat them, and we end up scoring a 90th minute equaliser against Livingston. Yeah. And so that's the unfortunate thing just now. They're finding results when they're up against it, and we just struggle away, and it's if the points gap gets higher than 4, I really don't see us getting back into it at all.
I mean, last season, Alex, we were all on the crest of a wave, the European win. I mean, myself, you, everybody either been over a European game, especially the final, or going daft, think we're going to win a European trophy. But when you look at it more in depthly, is that just papering up the cracks?
Yeah, I want to go on Walter's point. At no point did I mean Gio, and I'm actually sorry if it was interpreted that way. I meant the players. I think the players are good enough, but I don't think they're even playing in his system if he has one. I think a lot of it was, like a slow takeover from Gerrard's style of football. I think a lot of that was still there, and he almost just gave us the belief. But I don't think it was just him. I think we went through some unfortunate periods, and I think, to be honest, the players would want to do it more for Walter and for Jimmy than they would Gio. So that's my point on that, is that I don't think I don't have a huge belief that Gio played. He obviously played his part, but I don't think he was as vital as some may think in our run to the Europa League final. It's not been good enough domestically, like Walter said, and they're you are panicking that there's going to be no change. And Brian said if we go any further behind in the league than 4 points, then you can't see him surviving. He shouldn't be surviving a 4 point gap. He shouldn't be. We had a place where we went unbeaten, and albeit they were poor and they were always going to improve, but we had our foot on their neck, and we could have stamped it down, stamped our authority, and been back where we belong. But we took it off. We got complacent, and we are where we are now.
I see somebody in the comments has made a comment of Pochettino. Now that's probably the first manager I kind of agree with coming in. I don't think we would get him, but that was if we can get anyone, then I would bring him in. But that's a no go. No, something's got to happen, Brian. Because say we go to Wednesday night, the European game on Wednesday. Right, to me, if we get a total doing, which there's a good chance we might, then you look at it. But the most important game's Aberdeen.
Mhm.
And Aberdeen, like I said to you last night, they're going to come to Ibrox on Saturday full of confidence. They're not going to come with the fear factor that teams used to come with. They're going to come thinking, we can get someone here. If we don't get 3 points, we'll definitely get a draw because the Rangers haven't got that fear factor anymore. And I feel that has to be the game it decides. He should be away from me before now, but I feel this game has to be the game. And even if he wins it, it's not the end of the road because he's living game by game. But if he doesn't win on Saturday, they have to make a change.
Walter's back.
Walter back. Is that you back, Walter?
I don't know what happened there. I was cut off midpoint, which is obviously, you know what I mean. I was kind of on the way to a rant, I think. And by the way, Alex, I was only bamming you up about the haircut, mate. So don't worry about that. Don't take that personally. That's just my sense of humour. But see, the point I was trying to make is the fact that, you know, we are shedding a point a month, you know, and there's been 4 Old Firm games in the league in that time, and he's not won any of them. Don't get me wrong, 3 of them has been at Parkhead, but we've had 2 absolute maulings.
Yeah.
And it's the mentality of the squad. You know, what we had built up under Gerrard was a 7-game Old Firm unbeaten run. And you go for that to being cannon fodder for them. And I know they're saying Tav's no injured and all the rest of it, but, you know, when Jota was thrown by him at Parkhead, I thought, hang me. But when the Livingston left back staying it to you, that's a different issue. And if it's not an injury, again, is he just on the decline because he's now 30, 31? Has he not got that turning pace? Did we max him out last season? And me and you, Kerr, right for the start, weren't pro Van Bronckhorst. Do you know what I mean? There's fundamental issues. There's fundamental issues at the club, right? Now, Ross Wilson has a lot to do with that, and we've spoke about this several times. But at the end of the day, Ross Wilson has brought us in Rabbi Matondo. And if you look at it, Schalke were in Bundesliga 2 last season, right? And the boy was on loan at Cercle Bruges in Belgium, right? Schalke did not want him in Bundesliga 2. So what's that saying to you right away? If you David Bates went and played in Bundesliga 2 and couldn't cut it. So how will we get a left winger that for Bundesliga 2 where we think he's good enough to walk into your team? I don't know if it's budget issues or that's all we can afford, but you've got to have a level about you as a Rangers player. It's not just about skill. It's about, you know, having that mentality, having something about you. You know, for me, sort of Kevin Thompson, see if you look when we signed him for Hibs, he was a £2 million signing, and all the papers and the time we're talking about Scott Brown, that's who we wanted and all the rest of it. But see when you signed Kevin Thompson, I know the boy ended up with a horrendous injury record and all that. But see, for about 2 years, Kevin Thompson was brilliant. Kevin Thompson's the type of player that midfield is absolutely missing right now. Do you know what I mean? And what I get annoyed about is we paid a combined fee of 8 million for Ridvan, or it's going to total 8 million for Ridvan and Matondo, right? Yeah. Josh Doig went to Serie A for 2.5 million, right? You can't tell me that would have been 2.5 million badly spent if we really wanted a left back. And now Lewis Ferguson is now playing in Serie A and scoring goals in Serie A and playing under Thiago Motta, and he started the last 3 games. Now he's a box-to-box goal-scoring midfielder, and we would have got him for 2.5 million and all. So why are we doing bad business? We've also got £10 million in agreed fees coming up for potentially Tillman and Sands. There's no way they're worth 10 million. Why do Rangers consistently do bad business?
I think you're right when you say we've got a budget, and we have, and every team has. But I think when you've got a budget, you've got to spend them wisely. Have we spent wisely? The jury's out in some of the players they brought in, especially like Ridvan. He's not a chance. Ben Davis looks. I've known Ben for the past. Ben Davis has a good player, so I want to stick up for him a bit. Suter, we all knew had injury problems, so that was going to always be a gamble. But like Matondo, to me, I agree with you. He just runs away his face and he doesn't really do much else. And I think the jury's out on Ross Wilson still. He's brought in players because he knows what the budget is, he knows what we can spend. Obviously, if the wages go up, the price of the players, the transfer fee might come down. But if we can get players on freeze, then they get higher wages. But he has signed some decent players, to be honest with you, give them a wee bit of credit. But Gio as a coach doesn't know how to play some of the players, and that's my issue. I don't
Going
know
back
what
to
you
your
think.
point, Walter, do you think there's a bit of snobbery with Rangers in regards to signing players from other teams in Scotland?
I don't know if it's a case of, I hark back to the Scott Allen thing, you know, when Hibs wouldn't do business with the boy because it was Rangers, and they effectively ruined that boy's career because, you know what I mean, he went to Celtic and hardly kicked the ball for about 2 years, you know what I mean, and his dream move at the time was to go to Rangers, do you know what I mean? So maybe there's still that thing where clubs don't want to do business with us, but see, at the end of the day, money talks, and what we've actually paid out in fees, we could have got the boys in our own league who are proven and tested in our own league, you know what I mean, for less than we've actually forked out. You know what I mean? Like, we should have learned a lesson. We had Diallo on loan, right? But we should have learned a lesson with that. Whereas that, you know, winger used to sort of foreign style play on the ball. I didn't even cut it in the league. Do you know what I mean? And signing Matondo, to me, we should have learned a lesson for Diallo. And Ross Wilson isn't learning his lessons. And for every maybe one that he's got right, there's 4 there that he hasn't. And again, you can't sustain that. It's like Van Bronckhorst and the point swing against Celtic. We can't sustain this going forward because it's only going to go one way, and it's getting toxic. It's getting toxic on social media, but it's getting toxic inside Ibrox now. And
Do you think, sorry, Walter, do you think, but if they went for Lewis Ferguson and Josh Doig, it would have got them for the price they eventually went for? Do you think they would have priced us out the game Aberdeen and Hibs? Because it's
well,
Rangers.
maybe they would have charged us a bit more. But see, if you look going back, even when Walter Smith was a figurehead of the club, we always signed players for the domestic league. You know, your Whitakers, your Thompsons, your Naismiths and all the rest of it. And you always need that, I think, that sort of levelly player that can cut it in the league. And sometimes you get somebody that is a gem, that's a sort of rough diamond and can be polished. And I certainly think Thompson was like that. And before Naismith became a wee wido, he was like that as well. So I don't get why we don't buy domestic, but I don't think there's anybody now in the league that I would have had a go at. But certainly they two, I think, would have improved us, especially Lewis Ferguson, because it's the one type of midfield player that we've not got, and for some reason it's the one type of midfield player we don't sign. We sign everybody too sameish. Do you know what I mean? We've got absolutely nobody there that is box to box or can score goals or looks like. I mean, Arfield might try to do it, but he's past it. And Davis has passed it, and we need to stop the Dad's Army Brigade and stop the sentimental value and rip it completely right up.
Just on that as well, the success of domestic players coming into our club. We've had it recently. I mean, Glenn Kamara, we took him for 50k, and like you say, there are a few rough diamonds as well, or players that won't succeed. But for such little value, such as 50k, and then we were talking about selling him for 10 million plus. Why are we not taking more risks on players like this? My question to you though, Walter, is if Gio goes, if he was to go tomorrow, who would you want to bring in?
I mean, that is a difficult question, and it frightens me that there's no an obvious answer for me. That's what really worries me. I've heard folk talk about Sean Dyche. I don't fancy Sean Dyche. I've heard folk talk about, is it Kjell Knutsen and all the rest of it? I mean, is attacking football, but is it going to be Ronny Deila syndrome? What he can do in Norway doesn't necessarily cut it here. I like how Kevin Thompson speaks, but is Kevin Thompson ready? And if Kevin Thompson comes in, who would Kevin Thompson's number 2 be? I think Kevin Thompson's a good interim option and see what the boy can do, but there's no an absolute obvious answer for me, and that worries me.
I know, it does, Walter. But anyway, Walter, thank you for calling in. I appreciate that. And it was a really good call, and it was good to have you on. Call back soon, okay, Walter? You take care, mate.
Take it easy, boys. Cheers.
Cheers, Walter. Thank you.
I'd just like to say to Brian Howe, who paid £5 tonight into super fan. Superb, Brian. Thank you very much. So that's quite a good call there by Walter. He made a lot of decent points, and mean, there is a lot of people out there at playing Scotland. I mean, you maybe need players who used to our league, but we've got another call waiting, guys, and it's Alan. Welcome, Alan. How you doing?
Aye, how you doing? Not bad. The last caller spoke a lot of sense, actually, and that was basically what I was phoning in about, was the quality of why were we going for a lot of foreign players that we didn't really ken, when we had a lot of good Scottish players going to other clubs that we could have bought. So the guys covered everything I was wanting to say in that matter. So that fair dues to the guy. The guy's got it spot on. We should be getting more Scottish players in the club. Some players a wee bit of fighting it. But I was in listening to you last night, Kieran. I'm quite sure you said something about, did you know about Tavernier and his performances, and that if you take the armband off him for a wee while, it might jolt him and make him start playing a wee bit better because he's getting it. Did you say that? Aye.
I did,
Well, see, when you think about it, see after you said it, I thought straight away, look at what Gerrard did with Tyrone Mings, the centre defences captain, dumped him. What happened? The team stopped playing, and then he get bumped. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know that actually taking the airband off the guy is the right way to go about it. The right way to go about it is to start getting how to play the Scottish way, and that's what's wrong. There's no enough fight in the team, and the fight is missing because they got a lot of these mamby-pamby players that get brought in by their agents and saying, "Oh, go there, this Scotland. It's a nice wee cushy number." Do you know what I mean? They need to be fully vetted before they come and kick a ball for Rangers. And it's all starting to for the staffness of the board up the stairs. The board up the stairs is getting the staff as the players down in the park. I mean, they're really saying, right, say after we won 55, I heard people saying, aye, Gerrard walked away. Gerrard did walk away, right? But if you remember Gerrard's interviews at that time that we were winning, he said, right, we can how to win the league now. We need to take it up to the next step. Step up. We need to get a wee bit more money to get better players. What happened? We never get any money to spend that summer. And what happened? 3 months later, when the first fit of the team came up, it could have been Patrick Thistle that was wanting them, and he would have went if they were offering them money to spend. He just walked because the board won the game and what he was probably promised in the first place. So, to me, I can't really blame Gerrard, but we do need to start getting the board up the stairs to listen to the fans and terracins and to get something decent on the park. We had £12 million to spend in transfers, right? But fair dues, they had to get the roof and that sorted and put in disabled toilets. That's fine, right? But the thing is, that I think they put by about something like 10 million for this Edmiston house, but for to get the wood fan going in and spending £3 on a ticket, they're not going to generate much money for the club that way. That 10 million that they put by for that Edmiston house would have been better being put to the 12 million and giving that guy 22 million to buy players with, and we wouldn't be in the position we're in, provided we get rid of Ross Wilson and get somebody else to distribute the money, because it's Ross Wilson and the board up above that's causing a lot of the problems.
Do you
anyway,
think?
that's what I think, but that's my rant.
Do you think that Gio's too soft on the players on the squad?
Definitely far too soft. If that had been Souness, there'd have been teacups and hair dryers flying everywhere. Definitely too soft. And I think Gio's too laid back. He's too set in his ways. He'll no change. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can see what's going on in front of him, but he's too stubborn to make the change. Martindale gave the guy his dues. The guy said, right, lads, in the Tuesday night training session, right, lads, we're going to play Rangers at Ibrox. They're going to bomb down the wing, pump the balls into the box. I'll just play you six big fellas in there and you can header it out the park all day long, right? And that's what happened, and they come away with a point. But Van Bronckhorst should have been saying in the same day to his own squad of players was, right, Martindale's going to come and park the box because he's expecting by drawing Livingston out before we get a chance of getting behind them. We need to draw them out. No letting them all stand in there like soldiers and just keep them kick the ball away wherever they felt like it. We could have been near to 10 o'clock that night and I don't think we would have won that game.
Yeah.
No, you've got made a lot of good points. Now, I think there's a lot of issues at the club just now. There's also one manager, the director of football, whatever his title is, Ross Wilson, the board, I think there's a lot of issues, not just one, and I think we need to fix one, but at a time. We can't fix them all at the same time because that will not happen at a club like Rangers, because I don't think the board will, will do all that, because I think money wise, and also think just they'll not do that, because I think there's a lot of people on that board that Rangers, the money we've made, they're happy with, but taking the club forward, I don't think. I think they're happy with where we are. I don't know why, but I think they're happy with where we are as a club at the moment.
The ambition. I mean, I'm still getting texts because story yet saying, help Rangers in Europe, buy the European strip. It's the first strip with a different fucking sponsor on the front. So I've already spent 70 quid in getting the first strip, and then I have to buy the same strip again just because it's got a different sponsor on it. Do you know what I mean? Do they think we're really that stupid? Last year, Custody squeezed 5 strips out of us last year. And they're already on 5. The black one without even a sponsor on it. They're squeezing out ordinary T-shirts to us now, thinking, we're going to be daft enough to buy them. Custody for 5 million. Custody for squeezing 5 strips out the fans should be saying, right, we did a good deal there, mate. There's extra money. There's 7 million. Do you know what I mean? Custody's seen a way of making cushy money. And it's funny how here's another thing too that I've just noticed, right? Gerrard comes in, Liverpudlians come in with Custody, certain fair enough, fair dues. Gerrard goes and goes down to Aston Villa. What happens? They change for Kappa or whatever it is to Custody. As soon as Gerrard goes down there, they're playing with Custody strips. There might be a wee bit of something in that too. Maybe Gerrard's getting a wee bung after the boys.
I think it's football
You know what I mean?
in general. I think they all know each other nowadays, and I think that's the way it works. Do you know that way?
Custody, aye, exactly. The old boys network.
It is.
I do think, definitely. I do think it's about time. You know, I'm just watching. There must be a delay in the thing, but I'm seeing Brian blowing his puffing his cheeks. So it must be fair up with me ranting and raving. But I mean, everything I've said is spot on.
It's good.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm just taking it all in.
I know he is. He is.
Right. It's true, but I mean, that other caller was exactly the same. He's right, too.
No, he was. Walter made a lot of good points tonight, so he did.
I mean, how do you see the AGM going, Al? I mean, that's going to be a riot, isn't it?
How do you see the Napoli game going?
No, the AGM.
The AGM. That
should be a riot, isn't it?
That should be a riot, but I reckon it'll be a damp squib because, I mean, they tend to keep things fair, even at the AGMs. It's like they select a couple of questions and say, right, we'll ken what questions are going to be getting asked. Yeah. They're controlling us and telling us what we can ask and what we can do. I mean, I bought blokes of shares for my Waynes, right? And I've never heard a thing for Tiffany for I even go to the shares. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? There's no correspondence, there's no nothing. And that 4.5 million went to the squad. I don't even think it went to improve the squad. No. Fuck knows what it did with one.
Still there, Alan?
That's what I went by.
Right, thanks, Alan, for playing. Appreciate that. You take care now, okay?
Right, catch us later, boys. Cheers.
See you later.
Just also like to say thanks to Led Zipaldo for the £5 to Rabble this evening. And you made quite a good comment. He actually agrees with you a bit, Alex. He said the squad is good enough. Wilson is a side issue. Gio is a problem. And we've forgotten about 20 million loss after 55. Money is paying off debt. Money. I mean, we had a bit of debt, didn't we, Alex? And people forget about that as well. But we have made a lot of money, which I still think the board play a bit of smoke and mirrors with us and don't tell us enough and hide things.
The problem that we have is not the debt or anything, it's the transparency. We have no idea what's going on, and if they'd been able to tell us more about where the money's going, then the fans could kind of go, all right, fair enough. But we have nothing to back it up on apart from the transfer fees we're hearing about going in and out. That's it. And then they come out and say however much they spent on Edmiston House and the roof, etc. But they've told us 12 months after these projects have started. I understand they can't on the spot go, okay, this is going to be the overall cost, but they can have a rough cost, or at least tell the fans it's happening. It just seems to be a lot of you know, a lot of hiding behind each other up there, and then eventually forcing John Bennett to come out and say something, because we'd heard absolutely nothing. The transparency from the board is really quite shocking, to be honest.
How you doing, Martin?
I took a week
That's
out
what it's
and I've came back and everything's in turmoil. What's going on?
Where have you been?
A week off.
Have you been the moon?
Oh, I was in France and everything was rosy and the rain left Disneyland, and I come back and the shit's hit the fan. What's going on?
It's Rangers, Martin.
Oh,
The
right.
life of a Rangers fan.
You should have just
Oh,
told me that and I went, that's
I think Gaza Bucks hit the nail on the head there. I mean, this Rangers board keep secrets better than sort of North Korea and some other wild countries. But I mean, that's half my problem. Well, most of my problems is we get told zero, and then you're left with people on social media. Oh, I've heard this, I've heard that, and then that's how rumors start, and that's where everything just snowballs and gets out of control. If as Alex says, at least if they gave us something to sort of pacify us with a figures with what's happening, you're kind of going, okay, well, we can't do this, but we can do that and X, Y, Z. But the fact we get told nothing, I think that drives people bonkers more than anything.
Can I actually...
Heather, sorry, Martin. Heather says she's going to say hi to you because none of us do analogy. I said to you when you came in, hi, Martin.
Yeah, you took you went to Alex first and didn't even acknowledge me. But that's
we're in the process of talking, Martin. You just can't interrupt. We do that enough.
I'm the boss. I can't interrupt.
Who told you that?
You know me. By the way, my chair's getting worse, so I'm trying not to move at the same time as talk as well. But yeah, hello, I have missed everybody. Yeah, a few people asking how Paris and Disneyland was. My missus could possibly be watching this, so it was phenomenal. It was great. Standing in queues for an hour and a half is absolutely fantastic. I was sitting in the background listening there, Keir, not long in for work, as you guys know. And Brian made the point that I was actually going to ask you. And look, we all know Gio's time's up. I think everybody with half a football brain knows that Gio's time's up. There's a few people defending Ross Wilson in the comments, which is fair enough. I like to see people have different opinions. But Keir, I personally think it's the board that are causing most of this problem. And it's just simply because there's been no transparency for years for this board. And if we'd had just something out of them, then there might not be as much heat on Gio.
I don't know. I think football always plays a bigger part. A lot of the fans. I don't think the fans used to bother about behind the scenes of the board as much as we do now. Do you know what I mean?
think
just because of the past. But I think the board don't want to. They don't want to tell us what they don't want. They don't have to tell us. Do you know what I mean? It's like any football. Football's a business. These guys, we're just paying customers at the end of the day. That's all we are. Yeah, Rangers are our life, our blood. We go and see them through thick and thin. But the board members, they don't really. They're like politicians. They don't live in the same world as us. It's like
I get that, right? And the board shouldn't have I wouldn't expect our board to come in and go, right, we have got X amount of millions sitting in the bank ready to go and buy players. Right, because that's just stupid, right? But I mean, we don't even get told how long somebody's out with an injury.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous our football club is with regards to talking to the fans.
But maybe don't want to tell the other teams somebody's injured.
Come on, that's nonsense.
I'm only playing devil's advocate here.
Telling somebody how long somebody's injured for is ridiculous. We had the fiasco with Lowry at the start of the season. Whatever was happening. But then he was brought into the B team, and then I was at the game when he got that really bad injury. Yeah. And we've still heard nothing about Lowry. Absolutely hee-haw. We had nothing about Roof until he came back. We don't hear anything about any of the players. Gio's interviews are honestly like watching paint dry. So you get nothing out of Gio, but you're not going to get anything out of a manager. The board then do come out and give us some, let's be brutally honest, some shite made-up pish on Rangers TV.
Yep.
Nick Thompson's a lovely guy. Got a lot of time for Nick, but Nick's told what to ask, or if Nick makes up the questions, it has to be okayed by the board. So you're not going to get anything off Rangers TV. I mean, we're no stupid, right? I mean, I'm quite stupid, as usual.
What about if we get destroyed on Wednesday night in an Aberdeen game? There's a protest.
I still don't
Manager.
trust this board to
Do you think the board would act?
No, I don't.
The board
Because
don't have the balls.
If the board were going to act, Alex, they would have acted by now.
Yeah, they don't have the balls. I think. See, to be fair, your initial point where you're saying is, if we had a bit more transparency from the board, things might be easier with Gio. If things were going the same way they are, but we had a bit more transparency, I think Gio would be getting a hell of a lot worse, because we always are looking for someone to blame. And at the moment, I think he's almost fortunate that they are messing up as bad as he is, because he can spread the blame. Whereas if it was just on him, the finger would very much be pointed at him.
I think even the board are doing their job, Gio will still be getting the blame, because I don't think Gio's cut out for the manager.
No.
I mean, go back to what you were saying, Martin, about not telling us anything. We don't even know any of the injuries that some of the players have got. They're just injured. And we don't know, we've got no time scale of when they're coming back. We don't know the degree of the injuries. We don't know how severe they are. We just get told, they'll be back before X, they'll be back after Y. And that's all, that is it. You don't get told the injury, you don't get told the time scale. And then, of course, there's people making up things on social medias and, studying, saying whatever. And you've just no idea.
I could barely tell you if
Felipe
Lander still plays for Rangers. Sorry, okay.
I don't know if you've seen the podcast with Paddy Pimblett and John Lundstrom, right? He said Gio was playing with injuries. Yet Tav's sitting saying he's injured. Now, like Alec, you said, either Tav's injured or he's peaked and he's going down the hill, which is a case saying you don't really want to play him every week. So somebody's lying. I don't know who it is.
Right. Well, can I just say something on that? On that, Pad, is it Paddy Pimblett? I don't
Paddy
know.
Paddy the Baddy.
The guy's name.
Paddy the Baddy.
I don't want to slag him because he could smash my face in, right?
Alright, lad.
But see if we, right, as the Rabble, wanted to sit down and speak to John Lundstrom, see the hoops that we would have to jump through to be able to do something like that, right? You had, a while ago, Leon Balogun was on another podcast. I can't remember what one it was. I think it was just after we won the league. And this is what we don't get. We don't get this kind of access. See the hoops that I've had to jump through sometimes just to get press access at certain games. Don't get me wrong, the B team are fantastic, right? We get access to every B team game, they're brilliant. But that's another thing, Kerr. Fan media, and even the fan media like Heart and Hand, who have put a lot of money into the club, they only get X amount of interviews. So the fan media that's out there, the fan media that's got an audience, we don't get a sit down with John Lundstrom.
I know, but I think Paddy the Baddy, or Pimblett, he's well known because of the UFC, isn't it? And then obviously he's a scouser like Lundstrom, and they probably know the same people in the same circles. A phone call here, a phone call there, and John probably does it off his own back, because there's some of the stuff he was saying. I don't know if saying that, if you listen to the full hour, you probably had a headache, the same as myself. But
I can't hear that word lad anymore.
I heard the word lad.
I thought he was quite. I thought John Lundstrom was come across quite well. How much he liked the club and stuff, but saying things like Gerrard never played him enough. He was, every time he walked by Gerrard, he was like, it was his hero. So he was a kind of in shock, and he probably preferred it when he wasn't here because he wasn't as nervous. But saying things like he was getting told to play through injury. The players are going to play no matter what, unless the player stands up and says, I'm not playing, I'm injured. Then if that's the case, you might not get back in the side. But you shouldn't have really been told to play if you're really bad, if you're injured, because that can make you worse. But obviously, we've seen what happened to Morelos last season. Lundstrom's admitting that happened to him, so he's not. So that's how I feel other players are getting told the same.
Right,
but shouldn't right? Because the players only playing should be getting minutes and letting these guys rest or letting these guys get fit.
Do you know who you can't tell what to say? Somebody who always speaks their mind and is quite crass about it. It's Curry Muncher. Curry, hello.
All right, Martin, how you doing?
I'm not
bad.
Curry.
All right, Curry.
All right, Kate, how you doing? All right, Brian. Right, before I start anything, right, I want to give a wee apology to wee Alex here. I was slagging him off something rotten the other week there, and I think I went a wee bit too far. So I'm just going to say sorry, buddy. I was only joking, as always.
Curry, if you're going to apologise for slagging folk, you're going to be there a while.
No, I've got to stop you all, and I've got to stop Curry. Curry, I've been watching the chat since about 7:45, and I never seen you. I didn't see you for a while, and then eventually you popped up. So what I've got to ask, Curry, is...
Oh, Curry, you've got away on there.
What you want to ask? Hey, have a wine, have a wine.
Right, Curry, what happened? We were on at 7:30, so 7:35. How do you know?
You just knew I was going to say something. Come on. Sorry, bud.
So Curry, you're on to defend Gio and tell us how much you want Gio to stay.
The truth is, I was actually watching another pod, but in my defence, usually I always get an alert when you guys are on, and I never got one, so I was like, oh, it must be cancelled. I thought something had come up. So that's the only reason I was there. So when the other pod just finished, so I put on the main page, and it said Rangers Rabble live. I was like, what the hell?
I see.
So,
Everybody in the comments, Curry, was grassing you up, but then I'm thinking to myself, well, how did they know he was on that if they weren't on that? You know what I'm saying?
There you go. There you go, mate.
But anyway, Curry, you're on to defend Gio and say that he's the right man for the job.
Aye, totally. I wish. I honestly don't know where we go for here right now with the club. Everything that we've been saying for probably week 3 or 4 of the season, we could see everything that was going wrong. I think I'm not going to, not so much big-headed, but I don't want to say, oh, I tell you all, but I think you can all agree I was one of the first ones to start saying that there's something no right and that things were going drastically wrong, and it wasn't the results. That was everybody was defending the results. Oh, we're winning, but the performances were shocking, and players weren't turning up. By week 8, everything that I had been saying before, a few other people had been saying as well, and they were voicing their concerns as well about it. Now it's week 11, and we're in the exact same position as we said it would be. What as everybody says, it's from top to bottom, and it's just. I think this is. A lot of people does disagree with me. This I've already discussed this with other people. This is probably the worst Rangers team and management team I've ever seen, and that's even beyond Murray and Cassini. I'm not talking about where the club is or where they were. I'm talking performance-wise.
So you don't. So just to stress the point, you don't mean individual players. You're talking about the way the team's performing.
Aye, it's the tactics, it's the mentality, it's the will to win, or the lack of will to win. The way the fans are getting treated, not getting information, getting half-truths, players saying that they're fit when they're obviously no, either that or they're just, as we've been saying, they're just shite. Or players coming out and saying in another podcast, I just heard the back end of what you were saying about Lundstrom being in some other pod, talking to the boy saying, oh, he's been playing with an ankle knock. Why are fans hearing that for another bloody podcast? Should we not be hearing that for the Rangers bloody websites? Mm-hmm. Should that not be something that's come out for an official source? Lundstrom's not been playing brilliant, but he is playing through a slight knock. He's still 100%, but he's still good enough to play. No, we're not hearing that. All we've heard is, the team's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just, I'm really worried about the team now. It's not, sorry, I'm not worried about the team. I'm worried about the club.
Mm-hmm.
I put something on Twitter. It took us 12 years to get where we are now. Well, sorry, where we were. 12 years it took us. And it was every fan, whether they spent money on tickets, merchandise, followed the club, followed all the charities, wore their shirt with pride. Even though we were getting gubbed every week by that mob, we still wore our shirt with pride. Mm-hmm. And we promoted the club as much as we could. It took Giovanni Van Bronckhorst 12 months to destroy everything about our club right now. And it's not just Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, it's the board, Ross Wilson, Boss, that new guy that came in. He's like a Dutch shrink. He's been here a month, and it's like, what have you done to your club?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No. Your point there to Brian, is that a fair comment?
What was that? Sorry.
Is that a fair comment for Curry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's taken maybe a lot of people a bit longer to come around to what Curry's thinking. It's maybe just blind loyalty and denial for some, but it's certainly coming home to roost for a lot of people. The fact that I certainly don't believe, Curry, that Gio signed the majority of these players. I don't know a guy
does
that
that
comes
matter,
in.
Brian, does that matter?
Absolutely.
No, but
yeah,
in terms of the way that the team's playing, in terms of the way that Gio's set them up, in terms of the tactics, the formations, what he's asking these players to do. Yeah, of course, every manager wants to sign their own players. But are you telling me that there's not another manager out there that we can afford to go and get that could have these players playing in a certain formation and tactic and way that would get more out of them?
I dare say there is. It's the problem. The problem you've got is we're still going to be stuck in the same position unless you get a manager that's willing to work under the conditions that's currently, which I believe.
A head coach.
Yeah, he's a head coach. He's not a manager. He's basically getting given players and told to get them into a team or a system by the director of football. Now, that's like somebody buying a plumber tools and getting them joiner tools. You know, I don't know a manager that goes to a new club and doesn't sign players that he knows, or certainly players that he likes or he wants. And I certainly don't believe that Gio's signed the majority of these players. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I don't know about you, Curry.
It probably Curry happens far more often than what we think, especially in Europe, with that director of football model and head coaches. Now, I'm not saying that makes what Ross Wilson is doing and what the board are doing fine and they're doing a great job. All I'm saying, Curry, is that I think that Gio could be doing a far better job than what he is.
Well, that's how I said. I lay a lot of the blame to GVB's management style. It's obvious that he's not a motivation manager. You can tell that even during the press conferences. I don't know what the chat think. I mean, you say, does anybody actually watch his after game press and turn and say, "Oh, that's what I want to hear"? Because when I watch it, I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, really?"
It's like deja vu.
And 9 out of 10 times you'll be like, "What game is he watching?" Because he's certainly not watching the game that we're watching. He describes a game that we've never seen. It's not just me, because I see it all over the internet. I hear it from all of you guys in the pod. He's not describing the same game as we're watching. Mm-hmm. So it's like, are we us not seeing it? But he is. Is he in a different level of management that we're missing all the things that he's seeing? Or is he just blatantly lying?
what I would say to that, and Alex, there's many managers out there who, when their team's not playing great, or something's went against them, or the big teams managed to sneak a win. I mean, Jose was great at it. They use deflection tactics. They don't always come out and speak the truth. It just, obviously, the way that we feel about Gio, the way that things are going, every negative is going to be seen as a major negative. Now, for me personally, Alex, I don't watch his post matches. I've stopped watching them.
I think it's quite hard to watch them. I actually don't think there's a lot of deflection, so to speak. He just always seems he seems to be defeat, and I think it's almost he goes in with that mentality. Not we weren't good enough. I feel like I'm watching him go, oh well, there's always next week. It's really, really hard to watch, and I think I was saying earlier to Karen, I was saying I do feel sorry for him when I was watching the most recent one anyway, because he just looked lost.
Are we not maybe seeing more than what's actually there in terms of that kind of stuff, though, Curry, because of the way that we feel? Are we not maybe seeing, I'm not saying seeing negatives that aren't there, but maybe making them out to be worse than what they are just because we're unhappy?
No, well, I know. It's what we're seeing on the park and the reaction from players week in, week out that's been going on for six to 8 weeks. Every game, and we heard that, as I said, when people were trying to defend Gio, it was like, oh, we need a reaction. Next game, oh, we need a reaction. Next game, oh, we need a reaction. We've been saying that for weeks now. And we keep on hearing the same thing coming out of Ibrox. So, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just sit back and accept what we're getting told, which is nothing? Or are you going to jump to conclusions? It might be conclusions, but it's only because they're not telling us what's happening. Everybody's saying, oh, the GBB is lost to players. Does it look like? They just coming out and saying, I've heard it from GBB saying, oh, no lost. Players are no lost faith in me. But we're not hearing from players turning around and saying, things are not working out, we're not playing at our best. It's just like, oh, we're sorry. Oh, we know we need to improve. We need to learn.
Yeah.
You need to learn. Tab, you've been with us for about 6 years. And you need to learn that you need to play 110% and give everything for that jersey you wear. And for the thousands of fans that come out and pay their hard-earned money to watch you. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that players, as I said before, it's like birthday card pish.
Yeah, that is. That's what all players come away with, stuff like that. Curry, listen, I'm going to have to let you go there. But no doubt I will speak to you on Friday.
Probably, mate. You take care, lads. Cheers, have a good one.
Cheers, Kelly.
It's quite difficult, and I'm sorry, Kerr, I've just jumped in.
That's all right, man.
My apologies. It's a really difficult one because we beat Hearts 4-0 at Tynecastle, which for any Rangers team is a great result because we've seen how difficult it is. And the first thing that people said was, I mean, we still didn't play that well, and we just beat Hearts 4-0 at Tynecastle. That's where I was asking, is there a wee bit? But, excuse me, Kerr, Led Zapaldo again.
Yeah.
Someone direct me to the evidence that Gio didn't pick these players. His system is terrible. Matondo is the poor signing. The rest aren't bad.
There's some truth in that, I have to say. The way football clubs work, just the way clubs work, I know, I'm not saying Rangers work this way because I don't work at Rangers, but they have a kind of an age range of players are buying. Like I've said it before, maybe 25 and under, 26 and under, maybe with a resale value, maybe like Aribo, Bassi, something you can bring in for a couple of seasons and then punt for more money. So, and they'll have a list of players all over Europe, UK, wherever, and they'll have a budget. Now, budget for transfers, budget for wages, and I'll have maybe one or a list of 5 players for each position. So the manager will say I maybe want a left back, a right back, and a midfielder, just for talking's sake. So they'll come together and say, here's the players here we can maybe get. They'll talk to the agents and they'll say, right, I don't want to go there. No, he's out with a price range. So you start to get down that list. You might get to a 4th or 5th player. The deal might come out and say, I want this player. That player might not be available. Might be out the price list. The player might have said, maybe approached somebody, a couple of players for Holland, and they said they don't want to go to Rangers, don't want to go to Scotland. We just don't know. But the way football works nowadays, you do it, it's like if you've ever watched Moneyball, it's very similar to that. Each player gets rated every week, and then over a month, 2 months, they'll go with players with a consistent rating, like 7 and above out of 10 every week. Now, it doesn't always work, but that's the way football clubs have been going now for a while. The managers have a say, but at the end of the day, there's a big database, and you usually go with the players off of that, and that is the way I've always known it to work for the last, probably say, 10 years. Before that, it was you would go and maybe look at players, the manager would say, I want him, and you try and sign him. It's different nowadays, so I think Gio might pick the positions he wants, but I think the director of football and that go and get the players. But I do agree, some of the players they've signed are decent players. Some have not proved it yet, some not had a chance to prove it. Like I said earlier to Brian, I think even if Gio brought in some Dutch players, I don't think Gio's a good enough manager. I think that's my main issue. He's not a good enough manager. And the players we've brought in don't fit to the system or the philosophy or whatever Gio wants to play. They still, like Ross Clark said a while back, it's like he's still bringing players in for what Gerrard wanted to play. But Gio's the total opposite for that. And it doesn't work. It's like night and day.
It completely is. Can I just say a big massive thank you to our sponsors, Zenith Coins. If you head to zenithcoins.com and use the code RR10 at checkout, you will get 10% off your order. So go and check them out. Amazing variety, all different coins, and a brilliant Rangers selection on there as well. So RR10 for 10% off your coins. And of course, by doing that, you're helping to support the show. Also, of course, we're back on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, give us a wee follow and a like and a share and all that good stuff. And of course, if you're on YouTube, you will have seen that we have passed 2 million views for our little podcast. So in less than 2 years, we've had over 2 million views, which is absolutely phenomenal. And we're edging closer and closer to 7,000 subscribers as well. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. And of course, as well, you can become a member for as little as $1.99 a month and get up to 2 to 4 extra shows a week. And of course, the more members that we get, the more shows we will put out. I know you spoke about it very briefly at the start, and we've got time for one more phone call because I know that the guys want to get to their bed shortly. So I will bring in James. James, how are you?
I'm not too bad.
Yeah, not bad, buddy. I'm having some slight technical difficulties, so if you cut off, it's the internet's fault.
No worries.
What's your thoughts on what we're talking about tonight then?
So I was just listening a wee minute. I think I'm a wee bit delayed because I was a wee bit late leaving work, but I could hear Alex saying about talking about the players and everything like that, and saying about how it was that long ago we were in the Europa League final. I think everybody seems to be, unless kind of missing the two massive factors. Calvin Bassey and Joe Aribo were clearly bigger gaps to fill than we thought, and with them at the team, we're nowhere near the team. We are not the team that went to the Europa League final. We're missing 2 huge players, and that's the difference. That's why we're so poor this season. I do believe that's a contributing factor, a massive one, as to why we're so poor.
I think on that, I absolutely agree, and I didn't expect us to. What I'm not asking for us is to now go and step it up and go and take us to a Champions League final or whatever. It's more worrying how, like you said, 2 players. I absolutely agree. Played a massive part in getting us to where we got last season in Europe. The fact that you take those 2 players out and you have seen such a decline, such a drop, and it's a fall from grace. You know, we weren't getting the results, or we were getting results in Europe last season. You take these 2 players out, and we can't even get a result at home to Livingston. I think it's not just about those 2 that comes out. there seems to be a drop of intensity, and the players that are still there don't seem to be anywhere near as good as they were.
Do you go along with that, James? I
Yeah, no, I mean,
mean,
it makes sense what you're saying, but I do think that the fact that they haven't been replaced is contributing to the fact that we are looking weaker and slower and a lack of intensity. The fact that Calvin Bassey was playing sometimes three different positions when he would go into the midfield and Mark Rogic at the game and we had Celtic's number and all that, he's hugely missed in the defence. Joe Rebo, as much as he had kind of off periods and everything like that, is hugely missed. I mean, he was doing a job for us up at the end of the season. I mean, it's just that I just think we are not the team we were because of those two players. They're huge players, they're Premiership quality players, they're European level players, and without them in the team, that's why I think that it's a massive part as to why we look so pedestrian, so slow, so uncohesive.
what I would say, and just to try and play slight devil's advocate, is that it took Calvin Bassey a while to establish himself in that team. At first, when he came in, I think you'll agree, James, he didn't look great. He couldn't judge a ball in the air, etc., etc. And then in the space of 3-4 months, he just blossomed into this absolutely phenomenal player who then went on for 20 odd million to Ajax. The player that Bassett became before he left us, even a player at that level, and I think he'll go on to much higher levels. We can't bring that level of player in. So I understand what you're saying about how we've lost Bassett and Aribo. But number one, you're not going to bring.
Is he stuck?
He's stuck, guy.
Thought it was me. I'm glad.
I think he's went, is he?
He's not.
Well, at least he's pulling a nice face for us all to see.
Oh, damn, he was making a good point as well.
He was. Is surely, and just on that as well, surely if those two players are such a problem that we're missing those, surely it then goes back to the board, back to Ross Wilson, back to Gio, for not replacing them in the summer window that we just had.
But do you not think they were replaced? We signed Tom Lawrence, who was actually starting to play well.
Yeah.
And then he got injured. And then we signed Ben Davies and John Souttar. I know that a direct replacement, but we signed another two centre-halves.
And the left back as well, and Rudvan.
And the left back in advance. So the money's been spent. We've just been unlucky.
You can be unlucky. I think Ben Davies he's got a lot to give. I think in the last couple of weeks he's really shown his quality and how good he is. And he should be a really important player for us coming up. Rudvan's disappointing because we almost expected, no matter how good Barisic was, him to come in at some point because of the money we'd spent on him. And now that Barisic is dropping off, and seeing some poor performances, he's still keeping that space. Tom Lawrence is an unfortunate one because he's injured, and Ravi Matondo seemed to have a good season in Belgium, where Ross Wilson must have a second family because that's where we get all our players from. So, of course he was going to go and pick him up. But, yeah, I think unlucky maybe with Matondo. We're yet to see what Ridvan has to offer. But Ben Davies has been superb. Tom Lawrence is injured. I think Matondo primarily plays on the left wing. Kent primarily plays on the left wing. We've got two players whose best position is left wing, and we don't have a single player who really is playing right wing. I mean, we've got Scott Wright. If not, we've got Fashion Sakala playing there, who that's not his position. Or we've got Matondo playing there, who can play there, but that's not his position. It'll soon, in my opinion, we'll be seeing the likes of Roof. I mean, at the weekend we saw Stephen Davis playing there.
Yeah.
It's crazy that rather than, especially with again, the ones that I think Led put a comment in saying, where's the proof that these aren't his signings? For me, the main proof is the fact that he won't even play Matondo on the right. He would rather play Fashion Sakala, who we saw last season was out of favour when he had less players to deal with in that
on the right
position.
now as well.
He just, he really, I feel like he doesn't trust the squad. The squad doesn't trust him. It's not working out. It's really not working out. But I think that right wing is a big issue for us, and something that we didn't address in the summer whatsoever. Even if we brought Matondo in, we still didn't have a backup. We never got a backup either, And if Matondo comes in as backup to Kent, then we're lacking 2 right wingers.
I don't think there's any news on this, is there? That's went quiet.
No, it's still obviously we'll hear as much as we hear from Rangers, but it won't be a lot. But it might be getting asked at EGM. You never know. You never know.
No.
So just before we go, obviously we've got Napoli on Wednesday, which we spoke about briefly earlier on. Which
Please don't ask me what I think you're going to ask.
we're not looking for. I'll watch it. I'll get most of the first half and all the second half. I'm working, so time I get into work, I'll be halfway through the first half. But I'll watch it just to see how we do. Not with any confidence, but I'll watch it anyway because you always watch Rangers. But apart from that, there's no more calls tonight. Martin's disappeared because I think his Wi-Fi's went kaput. And we're in the last legs of the journey because it's now 8 minutes to 9. So, any last thoughts, Brian, Alec?
Yeah, just obviously apologies to James because he was getting cut off and he had a good few points to make. But Napoli's not a game that we're looking forward to, and we should be looking forward to. And Brian, do you know what? I'm going to bring this back to when we watched the live draw. I told you I didn't want big teams because I knew this could happen. And you're sitting there going, "Oh, you're rubbing your hands at the light." I was petrified.
It was just pure excitement for being back in it and getting teams back at Ibrox. It was totally a reaction sort of feeling at the time, but now I'm certainly not feeling like that. Believe me.
Yeah,
I was just so excited to get teams like Liverpool and Ajax and Napoli back to Ibrox and back to Champions League nights. Totally failing to forget that these teams are absolutely really good and flying. And yeah, I'm certainly not hopeful for Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's almost as though we should play an eligible player and take a 3-0.
I know.
That limitation.
Yeah, I'm in the same vein of I'm not looking forward whatsoever. The fact I've just seen somebody say 1-1, Scott B.
Yeah.
You have a lot of confidence. Scott B. I wish I had the same confidence as Scott did. Just again on that, Brian. I think you also forgot the capability that our squad can turn from top to bottom in 5 seconds. Never mind, a couple of months. So. Yeah, it's not looking great, and Napoli are on great form. I think we discussed that a little bit earlier. Napoli are on great form. They are a fit and firing team.
They were jammy last night, I have to say.
They were, but that's because Jose Mourinho sets his Roma up perfectly, and they like to be a little bit defensive.
Smallham is at fault. Come on.
Yeah.
Patricio should have done better with his shot, but no, they're a good side, Napoli. So what's your predictions for Wednesday, Brian? What's yours, Alec?
You were going to ask that.
Brian, you go first.
Oh, jeez. I don't want to say this. I'm going to go 5-0.
We don't have to say who to, because we kind of know anyway, so just say
we know who it is, don't we? Napoli. I've got zero confidence getting anything out of this game. As I say, Roma just played them in the Olimpico in Rome. Roma didn't even have a shot on target, and that's Napoli playing away from home. So unless they rest all their big players, thinking, well, we're through anyway, but they'll still want to finish top of the group. So
13 13 wins in a row or something they're going for.
Yeah, they're going for 13 wins in a row in the league this weekend. Yeah, so I mean, it's a scary thought, and I'm sorry, it's just going to be at least 5 anyway.
So is that just a half time, Brian? Is that the second
half?
That's
what I'm saying. I'm kind of hoping it goes to 5 at half time and they just take their feet off the gas completely and just go easy on us.
No, that would be even worse. See, to be honest, I couldn't watch that. I couldn't watch a pretty game. Well, I think I'll talk you through the game. We're gonna go 1-0 up, and it's gonna be bedlam. But when they're scoring their 10th, it will not be. So. Okay, I won't go 10. That's a bit harsh. 8-1 Napoli. And
I
and
think-
hopefully Gio's shown the door.
I think it'll be 3 or 4. That'll be it. I think they'll know they've won the game. They'll just switch off. They've got a big game at the weekend. Napoli, they need to win the league again. They've only won it twice, and the last twice was Maradona was there. They've not won it since. So I think they'll go 3 or 4-0 up, and they'll just play the game out like the
That's
Italians
what I'm kind of
usually,
hoping
like
happens.
the Italians usually do.
I would
So
I would love for you to be right, but they don't. Napoli this season don't seem to do that. Once they get one, they want two. Once they get two, they want three. You're probably right. It'll probably be our field as well that gets the goal, knowing our luck, and then everyone will be going, mate, you should be playing at the weekend.
he probably will be as well. So, but we'll talk about that later in the week. So, just like to say it yourself, Alec. Thank you as well, Brian, for joining us tonight, and everybody who is watching, listening, and everybody who called in. Thank you for taking part, and have a nice rest of your night, and have a good week. Bye now.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.